Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a little news item video type thing that I decided to sort of put out quite early. Actually, it's only 2:30, just knocking on 2:30 in the afternoon. Nothing like the threat of more bullshit to get you up in the morning. Hey, which is essentially the reason why I'm doing this video, is just to share some information with you that is all mainstream. None of it is concocted by me or anything like that. All I'm doing is I'm relaying some information to you all for those who may not either access or have access to the mainstream sources that are offering this information. I hope you're all doing well. I hope everybody has gotten through their weekends relatively unscathed and in one piece. And I hope you've all started your weeks serenely and calmly, and pacing yourselves nicely and all that good stuff. I'm doing all right, thank you very much. Getting better all the time, slowly, of course. I nearly said slowly catch your monkey, but that would be an ironic play on words. So anyway, I do have a question for you all, but I will keep that for the end of this video. It won't be a very long video, just to make a point with it, actually, more than anything else. But it's a question nonetheless, because I'd like to know the answer to it. I've not fathomed it out. So just a couple of things that I wanted to bring you. I've got a couple of notes here in front of me because I did write down a few bits and bobs earlier. I happened to put the TV on. Yes, I'm one of those people who does have a television set at home, because I like to sort of see what's going on and what they're reporting on, and all that sort of stuff. I think it's important that you keep your eye on the mainstream, not for, I've said this loads of times before in previous videos, not for the purposes of gaining knowledge, but for the purposes of kind of understanding where the narrative is at, So I just wanted to share a couple of things with you. So like I say, full disclosure here in terms of, or disclaimer I should say, in terms of the fact that this info is all from BBC sources. I haven't checked the UK.gov website yet. I normally would do, and I have done in previous videos for that source of officialdom too. I never thought I'd be ended up doing videos like this again, like I did a couple of years ago. If you look on my channel, you see a lot of videos where I put a little, in inverted commas, word in between the news. And it was all to do with the carry-on, as it were, that was going on and dictating our lives at that time, around about 2020 onwards. But here I am doing a similar thing and bringing similar news to you. Not news, but, relay of information, if you like. So just for your information, the World Health Organization, The who had a great song called I Can See for Miles, they have officially called what's now been named the Mpox, I'll come to that in a minute, a global emergency. This is something that allegedly, you're going to hear that word a lot as well in this video, allegedly has popped up on the east coast of Africa, the continent of Africa. Here we go again. Not here we go again, those naughty Africans. Here we go again, the narrative of always pinpointing certain regions on Earth as being the cause for something drastic about to happen. If it's not the Chinese, it's the Africans. If it's not them, it's them. If it's not them, it's them. It's always the same stuff. I've heard it since I've been a little kid. Right now, and what I've also heard when I was a little kid, do you remember a very famous virus that went around in the 80s that you could even allegedly get for going to the toilet? Well, similar thing with this so-called Mpox, which has reared its ugly head on the east coast of Africa, has allegedly grown legs and gathered speed on the running track, as it were, metaphorically, because it was an STD, sexually transmitted disease, for those who don't know what that means, particularly from man to man, so male to male, But they have now extended that categorization of how one can expose themselves to this new issue. Hugging is potentially now a problem as well. So I thought I'd just let you know, so be prepared for certain constraints to be suggested and acted upon by us, the public, again. But I'm just putting it out there. Like I said, this is from them. I'm just relaying it. So yeah, I've already mentioned the fact that it stems from Eastern Africa, and it has been named strain 1B. Potentially lethal were the words that were used by one of the 4 people put in like a Zoom / Skype conversation on the BBC when they were all having their turn to talk and share their expertise with us. A couple of those people I have direct quotes from. First of them being Dominic Hughes, BBC health correspondent, who, with a straight face, said the following, I quote, "We know what works. We know vaccines make a real difference," end quote. He also said that there would be 2 vaccines available, but essentially smallpox vaccines would do the job. I'm paraphrasing the do the job bit there, but that was the gist. That was quite interesting for him to be saying that. Followed up by the following. One of the solutions would be to tackle it at source in Africa. Now, you have to read between the lines, and I'm not teaching you how to suck eggs. I'm sure you all know how to do this, but for those who maybe are not as well or as good at doing this sort of thing, there are younger viewers watching this video, I know. So reading between the lines here, one of the other things he was saying was that we would tackle this at source in Africa, but there aren't enough vaccinations there in Africa, right? Because countries seem to be stockpiling all their antidotes, if you like, right? So for me, I'll be honest with you, I think this is a way of already introducing the narrative that there will be an inevitable spread of this. By suggesting that they can't tackle it at source, and the consequences thereof would then be that it would spread, is very, very poignant, right? So they would tackle it at source, but they don't have the means to do so, basically, is what they're saying. So in other words, we have to wait for it to hit us to then deal with it, is how I'm interpreting that. I might be wrong. I doubt it. And I'm basing a lot of that on previous experience, and so should you, to be absolutely frank. So that was Dominic Hughes, health correspondent for the BBC. He also said that there has been one case, the first case has been confirmed in Sweden, which, for those of you who know your geography, is rather far away from Africa. Just saying. So another chap who decided to sit himself in front of the camera and looked like he'd just literally been dragged out of bed. He looked very professory, to give it that professor look. And that was this guy, Professor Jimmy Whitworth. So the professor who knows everything because of his title, he's called a professor, so we can't question him. Absolutely not. If you're not a professor yourself, you cannot question people who are. Wrong. Yes, you can. And you should. Because they are all peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed means kept in line, saying what's required of them to say, gaining expertise within the perimeter set. That's what that means. Nothing more. Doesn't mean they know it all at all. In fact, most of us know far more about general stuff than he will ever know. Yes, he'll probably know certain books backwards in Swahili, right? But that's not the point here. Of course you should question these buffoons. Absolutely. We don't do enough of it. Right? And that's with everything, by the way, not just this particular thing. But I digress. He, in his expertiseful way, said, on being asked a question here, right? bear with me. He was asked, what are the chances of there being a global pandemic? His answer, just checking the clock to make sure I'm in good time, his response to this was, if we can get enough vaccinations there in place, then no. So I refer back to the first point made by our friend Dominic Hughes, who said they ain't going to be able to tackle it at source, right? He also said that supply would also be an issue. I'm presuming he means all those very famous autobahns that are crisscrossing through the eastern regions of Africa, right? So he basically concluded by saying this looks like an epidemic that's spreading fast. That was his conclusion, his expertise conclusion to those points, right? So the tackling at source thing is the key thing that they're homing in on here, and we can't tackle it at source. So that's the problem. Oh my God, because we can't tackle it there, what, are all our Chinooks not working? Are we too busy giving bullshit supplies to the Ukrainians for their bullshit counterattack against this so-called world power Russia, who can't sniff out a little conflict in their little border regions? Are we talking about that? Logistical problems, is it? I'm just asking questions, I don't know. Maybe the price of aviation fuel has skyrocketed, excuse the pun. But however, he offered us a little glimmer of hope at the end of all this doom and gloom by saying that people do recover fully, and I'm quoting here, after 2, 3, 4 weeks of illness. Okay? Which is pretty much what they said a couple of years ago as well. You know, if you do get a flu or a virus or whatever, what you should do, and this is my advice to anybody, by the way, I'm not anti-vax, I'm not anti-anything. I've had injections for other stuff past in you know, years and years ago for certain things that helped me. So I'm definitely not an anti-vaxxer in that sense. But I am anti getting something that's totally unnecessary for something that you can ride out and allow for it to take its natural course on, right? So you have to use your discernment there. But of course, we live in a society where you're very quickly categorized and boxed into some area where you can then be pointed at. You're made to, you know, you're being made easy targets because you have a lot of people who do like the comfort blanket of the masses and the consensus of opinion, being part of group think, being part of the larger crowd who think the same way and all that sort of stuff. This is not the time for feeling comfortable. This is the time for standing up now and going, you know, enough's enough here. You know, if there is an issue, let's nip it in the bud. We have all the facilities in the world to do that. You know, I said it once before, a great example is suggesting that people here in the UK, where I live, run out of water if we have a particularly hot summer, so we're told not to wash our cars. We have what's called a hosepipe ban. We're a freaking island, for God's sakes, surrounded by water. You know, and don't give me all this mumbo jumbo about, do you know how expensive it is to shut up? We're surrounded by water. Over 70% of this earth, regardless of the shape of it, although I know it's flat because it's measured that way, right, is water. So we ain't ever running out of water. But yet we're led to believe we do, or we could, blah, 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 right? So similar sort of thing. Yeah, so I just hopefully brought all that to you like I wanted to. So we've had 2 of the top talking heads, at least, offering their delightful takes on the developing story that is the Mpox, which they changed the name of from monkeypox. Get this, I'm not kidding you here, by the way, and those who understand me will understand. I'm sick and tired of having to explain, like I'm sick and tired of having to explain why I used to have Larry in the back of my video. The reason why he's not here at the moment is because, to be honest with you, he's got a bit camera shy and he wants a bit of a rest, right? But I don't buy into these narratives. So if someone's offended because I've got a black doll in the background, then that's tough crap on them, really is, because I don't buy into these narratives. I'm not a racist. I've got so many mixtures of backgrounds myself. My daughter has about 3 different backgrounds to her. You know, she's got a Georgian mum. I have German mum. I have an English dad. I have a French surname, for goodness sakes. I was born in a different country. You know, so anybody who wants to plonk that on me, they need to take a good look at themselves, right? Mpox, they changed the name from monkeypox to Mpox because they wanted to dilute the stigma of the word monkey. Because they felt the connotation between monkey and people, obviously, in their eyes, using that as an opportunity to prod non-white, if you like, whatever. I'm going to just say black because that's what we say, right? And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but it's the opposite of white, is it not? In terms of colour. Right. So that is why it's now called Mpox officially. If you don't believe me, look that up, why it's called Mpox. It's crazy. So they've even got time to add a virtue signalling moral load of bullshit into what is potentially a disaster yet again in terms of people's mental health and the situation, which will stretch our spiritual resources yet again to the limit if people don't do the right thing this time and heed the warning signs from last time and get on with their lives and don't pay attention to the stuff that glitters. Anyway, I wanted to just bring that to you. That's about it in terms of notes, but I shall finish with this question because right at the end of the news segment, they brought up quite an interesting stat, and that was that at the moment, officially, and this is BBC, by the way, so, you know, they're not my numbers. At the moment, officially, worldwide, 65 million people are suffering from long COVID. And then they did some bullet points as to what that entails. So shortness of breath, blah, 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 right? Now, the question I have is, how come nobody that wasn't jab has got long COVID? Just putting it out there, I'd just like to know. Because, you know, in my opinion, it's obvious what they call long COVID really is. And it's something we were trying to talk with people about when we did the vigils here in Bournemouth, for example, where we were saying we're all in the same boat because we are all we've all fallen victim to the same narratives and the same consequences of that push, whether jabbed or not jabbed. But if they're going to start coming up with numbers like 65 million people are suffering from long COVID, their words, not mine, ironically enough, they've all been jabbed. I don't know a single person who hasn't been jabbed who suffered from so-called long COVID. And I'm just saying, stating a fact. Anyway, on that note, I hope you all remain true to yourselves. Use your discernment, right? And don't fall for those magic tricks. But then again, it's all up to you what you do and don't do. Of course it is. Anyway, and oh yes, and just to answer the question from somebody who asked me, why are you wearing a Southern Comfort cap if you don't drink? The reason being, my girlfriend lives in the south. That's why. It's a bit of symbolism for me, really, and her as well. Anyway, so on that note, love you lot, Sandra. We will all talk soon, and I will see you all soon, some of you sooner. Before I do go, I nearly forgot, very important in fact, there is a Flat Earth Social coming up on the 27th of August, 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m, at the Bridge Hotel in Ferndown near Bournemouth, on the fringes of Bournemouth. Special guest will be Nathan Oakley. I'm very pleased that he's coming along. Not that I wasn't pleased that others came along, of course, but I'm actually starting to feel a little bit better. And I really hope I can make this one. I've tried a few times in the past and I couldn't because of my struggles, without me going on about it. But I really would love to make this one and have a chat with Nathan and hear what he has to say, because I do listen in on his shows online, and they are well worth a listen. For those of you who aren't aware, look up the Flat Earth Debate on YouTube, and check out some of the debating that they do there. You'll be surprised at the knowledge you'll gain in a very short space of time, because they cut to the chase on there. Anyway, all right. So, Flat Earth Social, 1900 hours at the Bridge Hotel in Ferndown near Bournemouth on the 27th of August. I said that already. So yeah, be there or be spherical. All right. So, like I said, I'll see you all soon. Some of you much, much sooner. Until then, it's bye-bye from the Sleeping Masses and the Pondering Ape and myself and Larry, who's having a gonk in the background, which is slang for a little nap. Okie dokie. Till then, take it easy. Bye for now.